At 0218 local time, from a camouflage launch complex in Russia's Bryansk region near the Ukrainian border, a coordinated swarm of 47 Russian Gerbera 2 loitering munitions, upgraded variants of the Shahed 136 design, ignites their engines and lifts off into the piercing cold of the night sky. The operation is part of a broader series of long-range strikes sweeping across eastern Ukraine, aimed at degrading Ukrainian air defenses, logistics nodes, and command structures that have blunted Russian advances for months. But tonight, we follow one specific armed drone from the swarm, designated Unit 29, carrying a 40-kilogram high-explosive fragmentation warhead. Its programmed objective, a fortified Ukrainian Air Defense Coordination Center outside Izium in Kharkiv Oblast. A cluster of radar vans, command trailers, and mobile SAM launchers that orchestrates layered responses across a 100-kilometer front, protecting vital supply lines feeding Ukrainian brigades in Donetsk. The center operates under strict emissions control, radars pulsing intermittently, crews huddled in dugouts against the January freeze. They rely on networked acoustic sensors, mobile fire groups, and medium-range SAMs to intercept the endless drone threats that have defined this war into 2026. Unit 29 must navigate hundreds of kilometers through this gauntlet, where Russian tactics have evolved dramatically. High-altitude cruise profiles to evade low-tier defenses, integrated decoy drones to saturate and deceive, coordinated swarm maneuvers to split enemy attention, and precise terminal dives to overwhelm reaction times. The swarm ascends rapidly in loose formation, climbing through 2,000 meters, then 3,000, pushing toward an optimal cruise altitude of 4,500 meters. Engines drone steadily, a distinctive low-pitched buzz that carries far on clear nights. Ukrainian early warning radars detect the incoming signatures within minutes. Alerts cascade through command nets, multiple inbound tracks from the northeast, speeds consistent with Gerbera class, numbers escalating fast. Forward observation posts relay acoustic confirmations. Mobile anti-drone units scramble across Kharkiv and Sumy oblasts. Gepard self-propelled guns rumbling into position. Pickup trucks with Zu-23-2 twin cannons deploying. MANPADS teams with P-Run and Stinger systems rushing to open fields for clear shots. But at this altitude, the swarm is largely untouchable by the bulk of Ukraine's short-range toolkit. Shoulder-fired missiles struggle with engagement envelopes topping out around 4,000 meters. Anti-aircraft guns lose effectiveness beyond 2,500's 3,000 meters against small, maneuvering targets. The high cruise phase buys precious time and distance. This elevated flight profile represents one of Russia's key tactical shifts in 2026. If you look closely at Unit 29 as it levels off against the starlit horizon, you'll see the design choices that enable it. The Gerbera 2 is a delta-wing airframe, 3.5 meters in span, constructed from lightweight composite materials, fiberglass and carbon reinforcements over a simple aluminum tubular frame for rapid, low-cost production in Russian and Allied facilities. The pusher propeller at the rear is driven by a refined four-cylinder piston engine, often a licensed Limbach L550 variant or domestic equivalent, tuned for fuel efficiency at higher altitudes where air is thinner but drag is reduced. Internal fuel tanks hold enough for 6 to 8 hours endurance at cruise, translating to ranges exceeding 1,000 kilometers when launched from border regions. Cruise speed stabilizes at 185 to 210 kilometers per hour, up high, conserving propellant while the simple autopilot maintains heading. Guidance is multi-layered. Primary inertial navigation unit with gyroscopes and accelerometers for dead reckoning, supplemented by GLONASS satellite corrections when signals penetrate Ukrainian spoofing, and a terminal phase electro-optical seeker with infrared and visible spectrum cameras for final targeting. The warhead bay in the nose packs 40 kilograms of high-explosive fragmentation, pre-fragmented casing designed to shower lethal shards over a 50-80 meter radius, ideal for soft targets like radar arrays, vehicles, and personnel clusters. What makes this swarm truly dangerous is its composition and coordination. Of the 47 drones, only 15 carry live warheads like Unit 29. The remaining 32 are Gerbera decoys, stripped-down versions with empty noses, often using cheaper wooden spars and foam wing sections to cut costs below $5,000 per unit. If you zoom in on one of these decoys flying parallel to our armed drone, you'll notice the subtle enhancements that make them so effective. Small corner radar reflectors taped to the wings to inflate radar cross-section. Basic transponders echoing similar IFF-like pings if queried, and pyrotechnic infrared heaters in the engine bay to mimic the warm exhaust plume of a fully loaded Gerbera. These decoys aren't dumb balloons. They follow identical flight profiles, programmed with the same waypoints, even executing minor evasive banks on timers to simulate autonomy. Some groups within the swarm fly staggered altitudes. A dozen decoys drop early to 1,500 meters, deliberately drawing fire from ground-based guns and short-range missiles, forcing Ukrainian commanders to commit assets prematurely. Russian launch teams monitor the operation from a centralized control van, screens displaying a tactical map overlaid with telemetry from each drone altitude, airspeed, fuel state, GPS health. No continuous video uplinks, these are largely autonomous after launch, but burst transmissions allow waypoint updates. Operators listen to intercepted Ukrainian radio traffic via direction-finding arrays, gauging defensive reactions. Short encrypted calls coordinate adjustments. Decoy Group Charlie initiate low-profile descent. Armed elements hold altitude. Ukrainian electronic warfare responds aggressively now. Mobile Bukovel AD systems and fixed NOTA installations blanket ingress corridors, with GPS spoofing and GLONASS denial, broadcasting false satellite signals to divert drones off course. Broadband jammers target potential control bands, though most gerunds lack active downlinks. Unit 29's receiver detects degraded satellite lock. Accuracy drifts from 5 meters to 50. Then worse, wind shear at altitude compounds the issue. Crosswinds pushing the lightweight airframe sideways. The autopilot compensates initially, but cumulative error builds. Russian controllers note the drift on their swarm overview. Decision time. A burst command transmits. Unit 29, revert to inertial primary. Execute contingency vector. The drone acknowledges with a telemetry ping. Gyros taking full control. Heading stabilizes, but minor course correction burns extra fuel. Deeper into Ukrainian airspace, identification challenges mount for defenders. Radars paint a confusing picture. Dozens of similar returns, indistinguishable at range. Thermal imagers on Geberts and MANPADS pick up engine heat blooms, but decoys match closely. Commanders face brutal triage, which tracks to engage. Expend a $150,000 Iris-T missile on a potential fake, or conserve and risk a real warhead reaching priority targets. First Blood, a lower decoy group triggers early intercepts. Acoustic nets ping the descending buzz. A Gerbera SPAG locks radar. 35mm cannons elevating. Burst fire. Proximity-fused rounds detonating in black puffs. One decoy shreds, wing folding as it tumbles. Debris scatters harmlessly. Nearby Zu-23-2 crews open up manually. Tracers arcing toward another low flyer. Hits register. Propeller shattered. Decoy spiraling into a field with a muffled thud. Ammunition expenditure climbs. Each Gerbera magazine holds limited belts. Reloads take minutes under fire. MANPADS teams launch at thermal signatures. Pyron missiles climbing. Seekers hunting exhaust. 2 decoys claimed. Warheads wasted on empty airframes. Ukrainian logs flash warnings. Stock depletion accelerating. Unit 29 holds steady at altitude, conserving energy. The swarm fans wider, corridors stretching 100 kilometers across to dilute coverage. Environmental factors bite harder now, sub-zero temperatures causing light icing on leading edges. The composite skin and de-icing strips, simple resistive heaters along wings shed most rime, but engine intake monitors flag minor buildup. Turbulence from a passing weather front jostles the airframe. Autopilot trimming constantly. At 200 kilometers penetrated, medium-range defenses engage. An Iris-T SLM battery illuminates multiple high tracks with search radar. Fire control prioritizes based on trajectory prediction. Straight-line vectors toward protected assets flagged highest threat. Missiles launch in salvos. Sleek radar-guided interceptors climbing fast. First pair targets decoys on the swarm's flanks. One evades initially with a pre-programmed bank, forcing a second missile commit. Both decoys down, explosions flashing briefly on Russian telemetry. Controllers note positions revealed by launch signatures, data for potential follow-up strikes. The decoy sacrifice works. Expensive missiles burned, battery locations exposed. Defensive density mapped in real time. Unit 29 approaches the terminal zone over Kharkiv. Fuel state 40% remaining. Plenty for the dive. Swarm cohesion loosens deliberately. Armed drones space for independent attacks. Pre-programmed trigger activates descent initiation. The nose pitches over. Altitude bleeds fast from 4,500 meters to 3,000 in seconds. Speed builds 250 kph, then 300 as gravity assists. This late steep terminal dive is the tactic's sharp edge, evading low threats during cruise, complicating mid-range locks with rapid closure, compressing defender reaction to minutes or less. Ukrainian spotters react frantically now. Acoustic arrays scream alerts, the descending whine growing from distant moped buzz to roaring approach. Mobile groups reposition. Gepard slewing turrets skyward. Skynet's 35mm systems acquiring diving tracks. Prioritization algorithms struggle. Multiple simultaneous plunges. Decoys mimicking arm profiles to the end. A parallel decoy dives aggressively early, drawing concentrated fire. Skinex cannons erupt, programmable airburst rounds filling the sky. Decoy vaporizes mid-plunge. Nearby, Iris-T reserves one missile for a flanking armed track, not ours. Unit 29 hurtles downward, altitude 2,000 meters, 1,500. Ground details emerge, snowy expanses, dark tree lines, then the target compound resolving radar dishes, silhouetted, vehicle clusters under partial camouflage netting, faint generator exhaust plumes, local jamming spikes, desperate attempts to disrupt terminal seekers. Broadband noise floods potential electro-optical bands, but the Garand 2's camera activates passively now. Dual spectrum sensor, locking visual and infrared cues, pre-briefed from satellite reconnaissance. Distinctive antenna layouts, vehicle patterns, heat sources. No active emissions to betray or jam. Lock confidence, 92%. Minor adjustment, autopilot nudges rudder for centering. Final countermeasures. A Stinger team spots the incoming streak visually. Shoulders launcher seeks frantic IR lock. Marginal at this speed and angle. Fires anyway, missile corkscrewing upward. Proximity detonates 200 meters short. Shrapnel cloud harmless at distance. Altitude 500 meters. Speed 350 kph. No evasion programmed or needed. Straight, unerring plunge. The coordination center erupts in chaos. Sirens wail. Crews dive for bunkers. Radar vans power down too late. Command trailers glow on the seeker feed screens active inside. Figures silhouetted. Impact. The 40-kilogram warhead detonates precisely on the primary command trailer. Primary blast wave shreds sheet metal and electronics. Consoles exploding in sparks. Radio silencing instantly. Fragmentation sprays outward at hypersonic speeds, peppering adjacent vans, slicing tires, igniting fuel lines. Secondary explosions chain rapidly. Backup power units rupturing, stored missile propellants cooking off in brilliant flashes. Fireball engulfs the site, rising 60 meters into the night. Burning debris scatters. Antenna mast toppling, vehicles flipping. Nearby SAM launchers catch stray fragments. One ready missile detonates sympathetically, adding a massive secondary blast that collapses a bunker entrance. The center goes offline. Networked radar feeds blackout across the sector. Mobile groups lose real-time queuing, falling back to standalone sensors, response cohesion fracturing. Logistics convoys halt indefinitely, exposed to follow-on threats. One calculated swarm strike, just 15 real warheads shielded by decoys, has neutralized a pivotal node, costing Ukraine millions in equipment and irreplaceable coordination capacity. Parallel attacks ripple across the east, similar dives hitting power substations, ammo depots, bridge guards. Defenders adapt frantically, deploying more FPV interceptors, refining acoustic triangulation, prioritizing decoy discrimination algorithms. But the high cruise, decoy-saturated late dive tactic keeps eroding their layered shield, one costly intercept at a time. Russia's evolving drone doctrine isn't unstoppable. Losses mount on both sides. But in 2026, over Izium's burning ruins, it claims another victory, forcing Ukraine to expend, disperse, and doubt every incoming shadow. Bye for now.